Let's do it.
All right. And here, I was going to wait for Facebook for just a moment as it thinks through the process of connecting us live. And then when I think they've done it, I go, hey guys, welcome to the Monday Mojo. I almost said Daily Dose of Awesome. My name is Chef Katrina, and I'm super excited to be here with you guys on the Monday Mojo. Because this is one of my favorite topics, actually. It comes up over and over again in the community. It is probably one of the biggest roadblocks I see come up all the time, especially amongst new people that join us, our first-time learners that join us inside this community. You know what? And I thought, I see this question keep coming up, like literally every single day. And I was like, who can I bring on to discuss this amazing world of where the heck do I find content and how do I write about it? And I go, Andrew. And I was like, this is the perfect person to have on tonight. So I'm super excited, guys, to bring to you Andrew Draughon. He's our editor-in-chief. Yes, editor-in-chief, director of content creation, amazing, brilliant, mad genius, knowledge creator, knowledge consumer, like really nugget bomb dropper, wealth of knowledge content creating guru right now in my mind, because I have never seen somebody pump out so much content onto the EMB blog as consistently as he's been doing over the past few months, actually almost a year now. And it's been pretty impressive to watch. So guys, I am super excited to bring to you Andrew. Andrew, thank you so much for being here tonight. I know your time with us is short, so I'm going to let you kind of dive in, share a little bit about who you are for those that don't know you. Shocking.
Sure.
Go ahead, dive in.
So real quick, what more could I possibly say? Really the only thing that you guys need to know, and I'll let you, when we start diving into the content, I'll just kind of let that, for what it's worth, I'll let whatever I have to share tonight speak for itself. But I do sort of in a fairly full-time capacity deal with content in one form or another. And so as Katrina mentioned, we do a lot of content. We're a very content-heavy publishing company, essentially. So we're putting out a lot of content. So I've created a lot of systems to create that content, and it's something that I'm very passionate about, and I'm excited to share with you guys. As Katrina mentioned, my time is a little limited this evening, so I'm going to try and dive in, talk fast, and give you as much value as I can. But I'll push a little bit. I can give you guys about 25 minutes tonight, and I'll try and pack as much in there. So Katrina, I don't know how you want to do this. I don't know if you want to like rapid fire some questions or how, because I know this is clearly one of the things that comes up, people struggle with. I can relate. Don't get me wrong. As Katrina mentioned, right now we're putting out a lot of content, and I've created systems that allow that to take place, which is great. And that, of course, wasn't always that way. It took me a while to, of course, develop the process that we have currently. And of course, it's always being refined, but I can relate. I know where you guys are coming from. It wasn't that many years ago when I would have had absolutely, no idea how to do what I'm currently doing today, and would have been, terrified, because content creation, while being of essentially paramount importance, is something that, putting stuff out there and knowing what to put out there, that's a challenging thing. But the thing you have to keep in mind, every single point of contact that you're going to have with your prospects is going to be content, and it's going to be some form of information, whether it's a blog post, whether it's an email, whether it's a status update on Facebook. It really doesn't matter. Every single way in which you're going to be communicating, even if it's over the phone, with a prospect is content. You're sharing information. And so knowing what to share and how to share, where to share, all these things, it's all really, really important. And when you're brand new, it can be very confusing because there's so many options out there. So if I can do anything to kind of simplify that process and kind of help you think about this process, I'm more than happy to do so. And so if anyone has, of course, any questions, and then, Chef, just let me know. What are some of kind of the main things, because it's obviously a very broad topic, but what are kind of some of the main things folks are struggling with, and I'll see what I can do to kind of
well, I know some of you guys want like, they want to know your systems. They kind of want to know what you have in place, the systems you've created, which are maybe a little higher level. So I want to kind of step back and look at like the beginner starting out. Typically the first question I get from them is, why would I share EMP's Pro's blog over writing my own content? That's like question number one that I see a lot.
Sure. Well, and I would say to that, if you feel comfortable writing your own blog post and putting it out there and driving some traffic to it, if that's something that, if you kind of have perhaps a background in writing, or you just feel really confident in your writing ability, then I would by all means encourage you to cultivate and develop that skill. It's one of the most valuable skill sets that you can have. So again, and like I said before, every single point of contact you're going to have with your prospects is going to be some form of content. So even if you are leveraging the Elite Marketing Pro blog, you still have to write essentially the Facebook ad, and you have to do that in kind of a unique way, right? So that your ad doesn't look like everyone else's ad, so that you're catching people's attention. So kind of really getting excited about that process of learning how to go about capturing someone's attention and speaking to their problems and needs and pains and desires and frustrations and all that kind of fun stuff. Very, very, very important. Now, the advantage that you have if you're new and you're coming to Elite Marketing Pro and you're not that familiar with this industry of kind of online network and affiliate marketing, if you're new in direct selling and et cetera, but if you're kind of new and you're not really sure like exactly who your prospect is and exactly what kind of content would appeal to them, then the advantage, of course, is taking, as Katrina mentioned, we're putting out a lot of content right now, which is great because that gives you guys stuff to not only learn and consume, which is part of the kind of creative process, right? Consuming is part of that. But the production is where, of course, you're gonna make money. You're not actually going to be making any kind of money, any kind of revenues. If you're just consuming, you also need to be producing, of course. And so the fact that we have a really nice, well-oiled production machine of content allows you readily access to content that you can turn around and share. You can promote it, you can send that. You can very easily share it on Facebook with your followers. If you're building up a fan page, you can share it with your fans. If you have an email list, you can share it with those. You can even just literally email it to people that you think it might be valuable for. Matter of fact, one of my tips, and this is, I actually put this in a blog post that's going to be coming out tomorrow. One thing that I would very commonly do, because I get tons of spam, obviously, I think probably all of us do. And so one fun example is I get a lot of spam on LinkedIn, right? People just like blasting opportunities at me. And so one thing that I'll very often do is very just nicely say, hey, if this strategy isn't working that well for you, and I know it's not, that never works. But I'll say, hey, if this isn't working that well for you, check this out. Check out this boot camp, totally free, just opt in, done, right? That's all I have to say. And I'll send folks to the AMF boot camp, and very often sales will occur, right? So, but just kind of having that mindset of like, what, all I have to do is share some content that's going to solve this person's problem. I'm just connecting them with something that's going to essentially make their life better. That's all it is. It can literally be as simple as that. So whether it's just a LinkedIn message, whether it's a Facebook message, whether it's a Facebook ad, and all these things, we're just kind of trying to connect people with, hey, what's something that can serve you? And if you kind of come from that mindset of service, then that's a fantastic thing. But again, the content on the blog, this is stuff you can share it in any way that you please. And of course, if you're a member of Elite Marketing Pro, you can add your affiliate ID, and you can, generate leads and commissions, and those are very fun things. So yeah, I would say by all means lean on us initially, because obviously you want to have as many points of contact with your audience as possible. You want to be delivering value. You want to be kind of at the top of their mind as much as you possibly can, which is no small task. If you're building a Facebook page, for instance, then you want to be putting quite a few updates out there every single day so that you've got a really good chance of connecting with your audience. And so the fact that we do have this vast library of content is really going to assist you in that process. And if you feel comfortable, of course, creating your own content, then I think that's perfect and that's fantastic. And I definitely I encourage you to cultivate that skill, because telling your own stories and kind of sharing how you got into the industry, because every single person that's here has some unique experiences. Right? Just by definition, we're all different people. We've all lived different lives. And in you, I know this to be a fact, you have some really cool stories that Chef would like to hear, stories that I would like to hear. I mean, you could dazzle us, I'm sure, with some of your life experiences. And that's the kind of stuff you want to tap into and be sharing with your prospects. Now, of course, you're not just telling stories for just the sake of entertainment. I mean, you're telling stories in this context to connect with people, to connect with people's pains, and to be solving problems for them, but really just kind of getting in touch with that part of yourself that could tell a story to a friend, right? Think of the last time you went out socially and you met some friends and you're like, oh my God, this thing that happened to me, and you tell a story. Like, we can all do that, I think. I mean, most of us, right, can do that with a close friend. And that's how you really want to be treating your audience. And so you have that ability. It's just kind of a matter of taking that kind of innate, or maybe not innate, but that knowledge that you've cultivated of how to essentially be entertaining, take it from one context, then kind of bridge it over into this other context, which is essentially communicating with people that you do not yet know. Yeah. And that's kind of the thing. It's a little bit of a mindset shift. But yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, I think it really does. And I think one thing you pointed to beautifully, and I'm hoping you guys really caught this, what Andrew said in a really beautiful way was that there's a lot of moving pieces to marketing, right? There is the content blog itself, then there's the learning how to drive traffic to a blog piece, and then there's the email follow-up, and there's making sure there's an offer on the blog. So what I think, is beautiful about what we do for the EMP blog, it makes it really simple, especially if you're just starting out. To share the blog post, we take away all of that creative piece right now, so you can just focus in on how do you drive traffic to a blog post, right? Because there's a huge learning curve. Many of you guys, I know I've seen you guys in the community talk about, how do you drive content to a blog post? What do you say? How do you link it together? How do you find the right audience to send this content to? So there's a lot of those little steps, Andrew, that are in there, and I think it's brilliant because we kind of, as EMP team, we have like those components that where we can just say, hey, this is the blog. You do an incredible job. I mean, you've got banners for them on the blog to click. You've got pop-ups on the blog for them to click. You've got notifications for them to sign up to on the click. I mean, so you've done a lot with the blog in terms of marketing strategy-wise that a lot of people when they're first starting out don't necessarily have. So it does give our clients and our team members a huge advantage to be doing the blog that way.
Absolutely. And that, of course, is the advantage of leaning on us, especially when you're new, is we have, of course, a lot of things already in place, and they're really optimized. We're constantly testing. We're always looking at our numbers, and we're always looking to, of course, improve. Yeah. And so, and actually on that note, you mentioned a lot of these mechanisms that we currently have on the blog, and I'm actually right now working on making those mechanisms even more compelling and effective. So I've got a couple tricks up my sleeve that I'm working on. So folks, keep an eye out. This won't happen by tomorrow, and it probably won't happen next week because we're actually doing something rather fun next week that I think we're all quite excited about. But probably shortly after we return from our trip, which I hope I see as many of you there as can possibly make it, there'll be some fun new things showing up on the blog to even further make everything we're doing that much more compelling and interesting and generate more leads for you guys who are leveraging the content. So I'm excited. I don't want to reveal too much, but there are some cool things happening behind the scenes beyond just the production of content.
Man, you're such a tease. All right, let's get back to some questions we got going on here. Where do we get more inspiration for blog content? Ingrid's asking this. She's asking, where do we get more inspiration for blog content? And I guess that also goes on, how do you come up with ideas for topics? Those kind of Carl and Ingrid, I think, are kind of on the same point for that one.
Sure. So, a couple things. Pretty much they're kind of two different contexts that we'll talk about real quickly. So one is email. And of course, we encourage you, if you're currently generating leads, right? If you at least have a lead in an account somewhere, whether it's, Aweber, GetResponse, whatever. If you have some leads, then you want to be emailing those leads as often as you possibly can. And of course, because we want you to do that, and we want to do that from a conversion perspective, the more often you mail, the more sales you're going to make. I mean, it's a really simple equation. Now, there's kind of a certain voice that really works in email, and I highly suggest you guys check out what Vitali does, because emails kind of have a certain sort of whimsical quality where you can essentially be sharing a really quick little anecdote from your day. I mean, really anything is appropriate because you can just kind of do a little twist and take any little story and kind of segue into, hey, a product, and you can talk about how this solves people's problems. So there's kind of a certain voice with email, and it's a little different with a blog post. My recommendation with a blog post, instead of focusing initially on kind of the story aspect, my recommendation would be really focus on the problems that you know that people are having. One of the easiest ways to do that is just literally make a gigantic list of every pain and frustration that you can think of that your prospects might be having. And initially, even though you personally might not be your ideal prospect, right? Even though you're maybe not the perfect avatar for your business, you got into your business for a handful of reasons, right? And they're similar, but every one of us has, slightly different reasons, right? Some people might have been in kind of like the corporate world and got really tired of that scene and whatever. I was never in the corporate world, so I don't know, but I hear that there's a certain monotony and horrible managers and all this stuff, right? And so some people experience those pains and wow, I didn't want to experience that anymore. There you go, right? Other people, right, have a totally different experience in guidance industry for different pains, but everyone kind of at the core of it, we really just want something different from our lives. And I think it really always comes back to, we just want a little bit more freedom and autonomy and control over our schedule and what we're doing. And that usually manifests in kind of a financial context, because obviously finances are what enable us to be able to have more freedom. But it really gets back to the idea of freedom and then anything that's constraining your freedom. So my suggestion would be really initially focus on the problems. Focus on the problems that your prospects are experiencing and anything that's removing freedom from their life. Make a big list. And then from that list, you really quickly know how you can connect with them, because you want to connect with them very, very quickly. You want to connect and you want to make a big promise. And that big promise, of course, is going to be how to solve that problem they're experiencing. And then in terms of the content itself, that's how you kind of hook them into the content. In terms of what you're delivering, you can literally cull that from anything that you've been exposed to here at Elite Marketing Pro. And as a matter of fact, we really, we have very value-added sales presentations. So let's say, for instance, that you watch the presentation for the 10-minute traffic machine. You could take one idea. It's like a 90-minute webinar or something. It might even be longer than that, right? That Tim Erway put together for the 10-minute traffic machine. You can watch that presentation and take one idea out of there, like one 5, 10-minute segment tops. Take that idea and then share that, and then use the 10-minute traffic machine as the way to solve the problem that you chose. So you chose a problem, then you've got some content you're going to deliver that you can cull from. And it doesn't have to be a 10-minute traffic, of course. It can be the Attraction Marketing Formula Bootcamp, which is it's a 10-day online recruiting bootcamp. And that's going to solve a lot of the problems that folks that are in the network marketing space, and especially the ones that are interested in taking their business online, it's going to solve a lot of those problems. So you've literally got 10 days worth of really solid content that really speaks to that audience. And so all you have to do is go through and just take one idea out of Attraction Marketing Formula and then just kind of make it your own. I mean, essentially just kind of, it's not even really a creative process. It's just kind of a matter of finding a neat concept or idea and then repurposing it. Very, very simple. And so, and again, every single one of our products, you can do that. Any piece of content that we've produced, right? So, I mean, we talked about the blog. I mean, we're putting out quite a lot of content right now on the blog. You can take a concept or 3. I mean, you don't have to necessarily limit yourself, but I wouldn't try and go crazy and write exhaustive, definitive, the final word on a particular subject matter. No, just take an idea or 2 or 3, grab those and then share them, put them into your own words. And if you really need, because I know that it can be a sticking point for people when they're looking at a blank page and they say, what do I write? So the easiest thing to do, again, go back to that list of problems that you've made and then go off and find something that appeals to you, something that you think is really interesting. And if you really need to get some momentum, because that's obviously one of the more challenging aspects of just kind of getting started, getting over that, like, what's that first sentence that I write or that second, just kind of getting some momentum, you can literally record yourself. Like, you could read a blog post, get some ideas from that blog post. I think most of us probably have a smartphone. If you don't, you probably have a computer, or you wouldn't be joining us here tonight. Your computer has a sound recording capability, right? Or if it doesn't, you can grab Audacity online. It's a totally free program, and just record yourself talking about that particular concept in a way that is addressing a particular problem. And so when you record yourself, then you've literally you can just listen back. I do this sometimes. You can listen back to it, and you can just kind of like quickly transcribe. And you just talk for a couple minutes, and then all of a sudden you've got some momentum. Now you have some words you can put on the page, and you can start editing and making it look more pretty. And that works for kind of anything. I mean, that works very well for just writing people an email, works really well for a blog post. And the thing to do, because I think this is the case for most of us, where very often we'll have a cool idea and be like, oh, that's a good idea. And then you don't capture it immediately, and then it's gone. By the time you're actually in front of your computer and you're ready to do something with that idea, you're like, wait, what was that? And it's just not fresh in your mind anymore. And you're not in that kind of that moment of, we've all been there, right? We have that moment of like inspiration. We're like, oh, cool, I've got an idea. It's kind of flowing. Maybe you're taking a shower or something, right? Like a lot of great ideas happen in the shower. It's really important to capture those at that time. And the easiest way to do that, instead of trying to like write it down, and sometimes that process can kind of slow you because you're trying to make, grammatically correct sentences. And it's just, you can obviously think and speak much faster than you can write, or at least I can. And so just record it, and then later on take it from that medium, and then just be like, okay, cool, I've got the idea. Just play it back. You can play it back at half speed if you need to, so that you can type along with it. And then all of a sudden now you've got some content, you've got some momentum on the page. And that's a really easy way of getting started. And if you need like a little bit more inspiration, this is like a little bit more advanced. So I would say if you're just starting, take the piece of advice I just gave you, which is cull from arm. Don't try and think of anything new. I mean, again, creativity is totally overrated in this context. So don't try and do anything novel. It's not important. Your prospects have not been exposed to as much information as you've been exposed to. So just take what you've already consumed and start doing stuff with it. Because anytime information is going in but it's not coming back out, there's a blockage where you're not getting paid for that consumption. So it's great to be consuming, but if it's not coming back out, and it's not going into an email or a Facebook status update or a blog post or an ad, anytime that process is not flowing, there's a blockage, and you're not getting paid for that time. And if you're not getting paid, then I'm not going to say it's a waste of time. It's just not a very efficient use of your time. So make sure you're always getting paid, and you can be paid as a student. That's the cool thing. You can be learning and get paid for that process as long as you keep that cycle going, where you're taking things in and you're spitting them right back out. I actually make a point. So I do a lot of reading, and I make a point. If I read something and I come across a cool idea, you better believe that's going to get used somewhere. I'm not going to like have a cool idea and then not let the world know about it, right? It's going to go into a blog post, or it's going to go into an email, or I'm going to share it with the team on a meeting or something. Like, it's not just going to get stuck, because if it does, it just throws off the whole works, and you're not doing anyone any favors. So hopefully that helps.
Oh man, you should. I would love to tell you, and right now everyone on Facebook is like screaming, "I love this! It was great information!" Like huge nugget bombs for them, because you really kept it simple. Like, and you talked about the processes, learning, and then as you're going through a product of ours, just start talking about it, start sharing what you're learning, and just connect those dots. It was brilliant.
It's so simple. There's an idea. I don't know who came up with this.
It wasn't you.
Who knows, right? Because again, I mean, there's so few original thoughts that a human being can have, right? We've been having thoughts for a really, really long time, and very, very, very few of them original. And as a matter of fact, I came across a thought which I thought was great, which in a sense was original because it was the first time I'd heard it. But it was, if you want to seem really creative, steal from dead people. And what that means essentially is like go like way back to someone who like died a really, really long time ago, and like read their stuff. And then the minute you take their stuff and you like apply it to the modern world, all of a sudden you've innovated, right? Because you're taking something that applied to an old context and you're automatically updating it, right? You're automatically essentially converting it into something new and useful and pertinent to today. And you didn't really do anything. You just read what some old dead person wrote like 100, 200, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 years ago. I forget when language or when written language first. It was about 5,000 years ago, I think. Anyway, point being though, just take something that was written a long time ago and make it current to today. And all of a sudden, like people, there's literally an entire industry of people that do that, right? There's a whole industry of people that just like read like ancient Greek works or ancient like Chinese texts or ancient Indian texts, right? And then just like write it in like today's language. And all of a sudden they're like a published author with a career and they can make a living doing that. And all they're doing is just taking something that was written a long time ago and writing it in today's words. I mean, does it get more simple than that? So all you have to do, getting back to the idea, is there's this idea called splintering. And it's where you just take from a particular work. It can be from a course, it can be from a book, it can be anywhere, any kind of medium. It could be from a webinar. It could be from tonight. It could be from this presentation. You could literally, I have no idea what all I've told you. And I've got a couple minutes, so I want to share as much knowledge as I can before I hop off. But you could take any little concept that you heard tonight. And see, there are, I mean, I don't know how many people we have total hanging out with us tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you. And let's just say it's like 100 people, right? So let's just say there are 100 people right now hanging out on Fire Talk, on Facebook, wherever else, right? Now, that's 100 people, okay? There are many, many more people that are a part of the greater Elite Marketing Pro community. And then, of course, there are like many, many more people that have to hear of Elite Marketing Pro and, yet to be introduced to this industry, right? So there's this huge, vast ocean of people out there that have never heard what I'm sharing with you right now. And if you're the one who shares it with them, like if you share it with them before I share it with them, then you are attributed as essentially, you might as well be the author of that information. Because I don't know that anything I'm sharing with you tonight is particularly new. You just might be hearing it first from me, right? I'm just an accumulation of a bunch of ideas I've heard from other people and so on and so forth. They did the exact same thing. I don't know when the last original thought happened, but it wasn't recently, I promise you. So you're hearing this stuff first from me and you're like, wow, the Andrew guy, he knows a thing or two, right? You can be that person. All you have to do is turn around, take information that you're hearing, share that with other people. And seriously, you've invested the time to hang out with us tonight, which is fantastic. I love it. I super appreciate it that you think that what I'm saying right now is valuable enough to spend your time hanging out with me. That's fantastic. Now, don't squander the time that you spent hanging out with us. Make sure that you take something, whatever you thought was your biggest takeaway, make sure you take that and then do something with it. Put it in an email, put it in a Facebook status update, put it in a blog post. Maybe you make a list. Maybe you make a list of like, hey, I heard this idea from here and I got this idea from there, and you put it together in a list, and all of a sudden you've done something new, unique, creative from your perspective, speaking with an audience that you can relate to, because you're going to go back to those problems that you've listed out and you're going to say, okay, cool, I know how to solve somebody's problem here. And so we're talking about content creation, right? There are plenty of people that struggle with content creation. Because I'll tell you a secret, I mean, it's not necessarily easy. These tips that I'm giving you, these are like the best ways that I've found to really effectively produce content, again, through the consumption and the production, making sure that that process is really fun. This is the best stuff I've had. There's a cool saying, though, and again, I didn't come up with this. I don't even know who came up with this saying, but you're probably going to hear it first from me, and then you're going to be like, wow, Andrew, he knows a thing or two, right? But again, I'm just literally sharing you something that I found somewhere. I don't even remember where. Anyway, the idea is that painters love painting, right? Artists love creating stuff. Sculptors love sculpting. Weavers love weaving. Writers love having written. Okay? No one loves writing. I mean, maybe someone does. Maybe that's hyperbolic. But very few people love writing. I mean, writing it's hard, it's a process, and it's much better when you've already done it. I mean, when I look back at all the blog posts I've written, it's great. It's like, wow, I'm so happy I did that. I'm so happy I wrote however many blog posts, right? But the prospect of the future blog posts that I have to write, of which there are many, it's like, oh, because it's work. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. It's a form of labor. It might be a mental labor. It might not be with your back, but it's a laborious process. It's a rewarding one, but it's one of those processes. It's something you have to do. You're not necessarily always going to be super excited about it, so don't necessarily expect it to be easier than it's going to be, but just use the tools and the tricks. You can really cut down the time it's going to take you, and focus is one of the biggest keys of this whole equation. So when you actually go to do this and to implement, cut out all distractions if possible. I know that's hard. I mean, I have a 4-month-old. I know about distractions. It's challenging, but just cut them out as much as you possibly can. Focus as much as you can. Condense the amount of time as much as you possibly can, and put as much stuff out there into the world. Because the more stuff you put out there, the more opportunities you have to grow your business, grow your brand, grow your audience, grow your revenue. These are all good things, right? So just, use some of these tools, and it's going to make this process a lot more efficient and effective for you.
I got nothing. All I could, the information was so powerful, and then again, at the same time, they're talking about becoming Tomb Raiders and Raiders of the Lost Ark. There was this whole lightsaber and cape thing going on, and digging up dead people, and I don't know what was going on in the chat over here, but everybody on Facebook is inspired and moved and ready to go. I mean, look at this. They're inspired. They now know how to create inspiring content. So you've done your job in 25 minutes or less.
Perfect. Yeah, that's excellent timing. As I mentioned, I've got a 4-month-old, and I've got to go see if he's going to be transferred. Right now, as his mom's working on putting him down, and I go see if he needs to make it into his crib, and hopefully, fingers crossed, he's ready, and then he can get some sleep, and I can get some work on. As I mentioned, there's a blog post. Keep an eye out. I'm really excited for tomorrow's blog post. I think it's going to be good stuff, and then you'll see my little LinkedIn tip that I gave you earlier. So I recommend, hey, try that out. It's a really, really easy way of introducing people to the boot camp. But again, try not to overcomplicate this process. Try not to make it any bigger than it needs to be, and try and make it as efficient as you can. And the best things that have worked for me, again, are whenever I'm stuck, just start talking. I mean, we can all talk through things, I think. I mean, most of us can kind of articulate things verbally pretty quickly and easily. So talk it out, and I'm pretty sure that there are some. I know there's some numbers. I haven't done this, but you could look this up. And actually, if you look this up, this would be a great tip for you to turn around and share. But I know there's some numbers you can call, and it kind of does the visual voicemail thing for you. So you call, and then it transcribes whatever you're saying. That'd be a great way to kick off some content creation. Again, I don't have a particular resource I can share because it's not a part of my process. But if you think that might be something that works for you, look into that, and then that's a great tip that you can then turn around and share with your people in your audience. Add some value there. Awesome.
All right, so if you guys wanted to know where to find out more about Andrew's blog post that he's writing, it's on the Elite Marketing Pro blog. That's elitemarketingpro.com/blog. So check out all of our awesome content over there. If you're new to us and you don't know what Elite Marketing Pro is and you're curious to learn more, head over to elitemarketingpro.com/mojo to learn more about Elite Marketing Pro and how we can work with you to help you build your business. Andrew, I know that you've got to head out. My dog back over here has got to go to the bathroom. She has been a constant back here. So you go take care of your kid, the beautiful one. I can't believe how big he's getting. You better have lots of pictures to show us at No Excuses. That's all I'm telling you.
I got you covered.
Okay, I just want to make sure I get the whole fix because you've been doling it out little by little. It's really you've been horrible.
It's better that because I remember when my friends first started having kids, and it's like a deluge of baby pics, and so I wanted to go in the opposite direction. So scarcity, it creates so much more desire than abundance.
No,
right?
Once every 2 months is not good for me. I need at least once a month update here. I just got to see the growth of this kid. All right.
Got it. I got you covered. Well,
okay, cool.
Next week, I hope that everyone is there. I really want to meet you guys and hang out with you guys. It's going to be a ton of fun. Hope to see you at No Excuses. And as an added bonus, we get to see some baby pictures.
All right, guys. Well, enjoy. Again, Andrew, I appreciate your time. Have a great one, guys. We'll see you at No Excuses when we see you there. And with that, I'm calling this the end. Have a good one.
All right.
Bye, Andrew.
Night, everybody.